Today we want to talk about the future of GP and all things surrounding GP and what you need to know. Also, we hope to address things that you may have heard about the future of GP, things like GP is going away, GP is going to end, it's over. We want to set the record straight on that and where the future of GP really actually is, where it lies, and what your options are when looking at the future. Cal's always been a big fan of GP. It's been around since the early 80s. It's still a great solution. There's a large number of customers still running it today. Roughly over 40,000 companies are still running GP today. Shows you the strength of the platform. So my name is John DeLeo. I've been working with Cal and GP for 16 years plus now and counting. We also have on our webinar today, George Makwitz. He's been working with GP and Cal since he started selling it when it was Great Plains on DOS back in 1998. And then we started exclusively selling Great Plains in 1997. We also implemented Great Plains in our own business back in 1997. So Cal knows GP, Great Plains, as we used to know it. So it's a great platform. It's a great software for Cal, for our customers for many years. Cal's still supporting it and will continue to support GP as long as we have clients running it. So during this webinar, if you have questions, like they said, please submit them through the chat and we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So with that, I want to get started. I'm going to show you an agenda. So first, we're going to go over Great Plains, its history a little bit, Dynamics GP, when Microsoft took it over, the current status of GP, the different lifecycle policies that Microsoft has put in place, which really dictate where you are as far as upgrades and such, the modern lifecycle, how that does impact you, GP updates and upgrades. Obviously, that's always a concern. Options for improving GP, GP's future, possibility for GP in the cloud. And then we're going to get to stay or go, right? Things you need to consider. And we're going to talk about Cal's journey to Acumatica and why we went there off of GP. Dynamics 365, what that means. And then if you're going to go, ERP options and things you must know when you're considering the cloud SaaS model of software as it is today. And then we'll lead into our Q&A. So the Dynamics GP roadmap, it's discussion, right? So Great Plains started in the early 80s, was on a DOS Mac base at first. Then they moved to supporting Microsoft SQL Server in 1988. Microsoft purchased Great Plains from Great Plains Software Accounting in 2001. Microsoft also, when they got into that, when they purchased GP, they also bought a product called Navision and Exapta. So there's a reason why that's important, because Navision, which Microsoft bought in 2002, which was also made in the 80s, is now what is currently known as Business Central. So that's why you kind of need to be aware of what it is and where it came from. The pros and cons of that, obviously, Navision was a competitor to GP. Wasn't nearly as popular in the US, but definitely had some strength and weaknesses against GP. Obviously, we're all GP fans here today. So GP in 2013, Microsoft launched something called the GP Web Client. Not many people took on that at that time, but as it evolved, the web client became much more improved as the releases progressed. So keep that in mind as we go further down. So in 2013, Microsoft switched to the fixed lifecycle policy. So if you look at the versions at the bottom of the list here, from GP 2013 to 2018 R2, they're all under the fixed lifecycle policy, which means that the first 5 years since it was released are under mainstream support. Mainstream support will give you all the updates, any regulatory, security, as well as hot fixes, feature improvements, anything that they include in those releases within that time frame would be included when it's in mainstream. So if we look at mainstream support, 2018 R2 went out of mainstream support this year. All the rest went out in prior years. As far as what's in extended support, you're currently on, if you are on anything but 2013, you are still in extended support. Extended support just ended in April for 2013. So what does extended support mean to you? It means you're going to get security patches and updates of that nature, but it's no longer going to get your regulatory, so tax updates, anything like that. Nothing is going to be included when we're talking about anything other than security patches and the like. So that's for 2013 through 2018 R2. In 2019, Microsoft introduced the modern lifecycle policy, which started with the 18.2 version. So this was a complete change from where they were in the prior lifecycle. So modern lifecycle, support, service, bug fixes, very similar, but Dynamics GP customers have to stay current by taking at least one of the 3 all-inclusive updates in the past year. Now, those typically are June, October, and December, and typically October is always when we get the major release. So going from 18.5, which was released October of last year, and 18.6 is scheduled for October of this year. So in that, you'll have, again, usability, reliability, customer issues, many fixes. Again, you're going to stay current. You're in Microsoft's current lifecycle, modern lifecycle, but you have to take at least one of those in the past year. That's how Microsoft basically puts that message out there to us. They're telling us basically you need to, in order to stay on that lifecycle. So what does that ultimately mean? So if we take a closer look at modern and fixed lifecycle, this was Microsoft's calendar. All right, we see where each version is ending. 2018 R2, right? Mainstream, this January of this year went out of support, extended support through January 11, 2028. At that point, they then went 2019, 18.2, we went to the modern lifecycle. And you can see this is right off Microsoft's website, and they're committed through 2028 and beyond, they say. Okay, so what does that mean? We at least know today that we are good through 2028 with at least some type of feature fixes, improvements, definitely tax and updates. Anything that is required is going to be there for us. So what to expect going forward, 28 and beyond. So again, Microsoft's putting it out there. They're committed to GP through 2028 and beyond. This was a screenshot from Microsoft's website. Just took it, and where they're basically telling you, if you're a GP customer and you want to migrate to the cloud, reach out to your GP partner. You choose to migrate to Dynamics 365 Business Central or 365 F Finance to take advantage of the cloud, then we can help you migrate. What's important in that statement? Migrate. Right? It's not an upgrade from GP to Business Central. There is no direct path, or to finance and operations, which is the Exapta platform. So you got to be careful that you're not thinking, or Microsoft's not confusing you with their messaging about it's an upgrade. GP upgrades to Business Central. They're 2 different platforms. Again, they were both built in the same era. The only difference being Business Central is now they've evolved out the cloud platform side of it to be more of a true cloud product versus GP, which has the web client, which can be run on a browser. So big differentiators there. But as you can say, they say here, this is your choice, and Microsoft will support both scenarios, right? They're not saying that they're abandoning GP at this time. Through 2028 and beyond is what they're committed to. Every year, we'll probably see an update on this where we'll know further what they're doing. So what to expect going forward? So are you going to see major improvements? Are you going to see new features, functionality? Is it going to continue Office compatibility? These are the things you need to be concerned about if you're not in the modern lifecycle. Microsoft Stack compatibility, so SQL Server, SQL reporting services, all of those related products, right? Will you see new ISVs, independent software solution vendors, coming into the marketplace for GP? And then updates each year. Do you need to, right? You got to really consider, these are the things that really come into factor. Do you run payroll? Do you run your 1099s out of GP? And do you have electronic reporting? What are your capabilities there? Are you running GP's fixed asset module? And then obviously what's in support or not. So major improvements. Unlikely to see many major improvements going forward, meaning I think the last one that I can recall was when they added PO requisitions and they updated the workflow engine in GP. Those were for major improvements, right, to the solution, right? They added functionality, features that weren't there before versus more usability features. So new feature functionality that's been released most recently is more user functionality based, right? They're not adding features or modules or components of modules to like purchasing. Really, it's more usability, improving the screen, improving capabilities for copy and paste, things of that nature. That's really where they're going. Will you continue as long as you're on the life cycle to have Office compatibility? Yes. I mean, that is important, right? I mean, so when we're talking about Office compatibility, we had situations recently where clients that were not on the modern lifecycle or on the latest releases, basic authentication for emailing was deprecated, and now GP emailing wasn't working anymore without a GP upgrade. So that's why that is important for people that are emailing out of GP, right? New ISVs, unlikely to see many new ones come into the marketplace. Do I need to update each year? If you're running payroll through GP, yes, you have to update each year in order to get the current tax updates. So it's not an option. 1099s. If you're using GP to print your 1099s and the tax laws around 1099s change again, then there is the probability that you would need to update. There are other options around how you get around it, depending on what your needs are, and whether or not you need to do electronic filing and everything like that. So there's definitely other options. The biggest one, again, being payroll. Fixed assets. Again, if the tax laws were to change around fixed assets, then you're basically not running a something that's going to align with the current tax laws. Hasn't happened in a while, but keep it out there. So support. Microsoft will continue to support you as long as you're on the modern lifecycle. Now, that being said, during my research, the general feeling is that if you're within the last 18 months, then Microsoft's not going to refuse you for support. You're still on a very new version, right? But the farther you get away from the last 3 updates, the less likely we are to go and be able to use Microsoft to get support. That being said, Cal's going to support you no matter what version of GP you're on. We've been working with it forever. We know them inside and out. So that's not really a big concern for us. All right, so some recent news that came out of Microsoft that is important to the GP, not really to existing clients, but it does impact you down the road. So on April 1st of 2025, we can no longer sell perpetual licenses to new customers, new clients. In April of 2026, we can no longer sell either perpetual or subscription license for GP. So if an existing client will still be able to purchase new users, that doesn't impact an existing client that's current in support on their enhancement with Microsoft. It doesn't impact you. You would not be able to buy a new license. So for someone that is on a very old version of GP and is out of enhancement and they haven't paid their enhancement, they might be so inclined to purchase a new license and get into that modern life cycle, because after 2025, we won't be able to sell a perpetual license. So that's where that becomes important. So just keep that in mind depending on what your situation is. Should I stay or should I go? What's changed? That's really the big question. What has changed for you that you would consider moving from GP or staying with GP? So what required functionality you might need? What are your future plans, growth plans, security? Big one. We've had a lot of ransomware. It's always a constant issue. So the future of GP and what are your options? So has your business model changed while your business has been running GP? Example, a distributor that moved from sales reps to website sales, completely separate departure from your business model. You're still doing wholesale or retail distribution, whatever you're doing, but in this case, it's changed significantly, right? Brick and mortar office with staff. Now you've got a mobile workforce, right? They need mobile access. Something significant has changed in your business processes, right? Do you need more connected systems? Example, CRM, right? So for Cal, being consulting business, right? In the 90s, we went out on site and we visited you guys, and we were on site and we didn't do everything remotely. And as mobile, and we were, if we had to dial into your system, it was a modem. So, basically what happened to Cal was technology kept increasing. Now everybody's able to do screen shares. We're not going out on site all the time. And now we've got a bunch of remote staff. And so now it becomes more difficult using a GP platform to be able to share all that information, let everybody use and do their job effectively. So again, our business model started to change, not what we were doing, but how we were doing it, right? So we required functionality. As your ERP functionality needs changed, right? So ours did change slightly. What are your future plans, right? I mean, so your strategic plans for your company, does GP align with that? It's important to be figuring that out when you're considering making a move. What are you targeting to do? Your growth plans for your company. Are you expecting the number of users to grow significantly because you're in a high growth path? That could factor your decision. Do you need integrations to other systems? Important that you're considering that, right? Security. Are you hosting on your own server? Cybersecurity, major risk today. Hackers, ransomware, always looking for an opportunity. And unfortunately, we can say that we've had some clients that have been hit, and it's not a nice thing to have. And at the end of the day, when you are hosting your own servers, it is up to you and your IT staff to make sure you're safe. GP is behind those firewalls. So it's not really necessarily GP is the vulnerability, but once they get in, it's a problem. So future of GP. So Microsoft states they'll support it through GP 28 and beyond, but lack of new customers does point to some point that there will be an end of life, right? I mean, it's just inevitable. If they're not going to allow us to sell it, we're going to have attrition. Customers are going to be moving off of GP for one way or another, and therefore the base is going to slowly dwindle, right? I mean, 40,000 customers, a lot of customers, but at some point, Microsoft is basically hedging our bet that they're going to be, pushing us into that direction where it's going to be an end of life at some point. Microsoft has, been known though in the past to do a 180 on us, so we can't bet the farm and say absolutely in 2028 or in 2032 maybe that they're going to say, okay, it's end of life, we're not going to support it anymore, you're on your own, right? I mean, we have large businesses today that are running green screen systems that are still, they're not supported by the author, but there's still a whole ecosystem out there that's able to support those platforms. So again, I expect that there will be companies that will continue to run GP, and there'll be continue to have partners out there like us that'll be able to support GP, even if Microsoft, again, we might lose some functionality at some point, right? Because we can no longer be compatible with the latest Office updates or things like that. But when that opportunity comes about, ISVs are out there, they come out with new solutions, just like the emailing issue. If you have the email issue today with your GP, there are other ISVs out there that can take care of that issue for you. So just keep that in mind. So should I share, what are your options, right? So If you need to add functionality to GP, there's still a whole slew of ISVs out there that are offering great solutions to add or enhance GP's functionality. The majority of them are still supporting GP customers and looking for new customers. We've seen very few that have been in the GP ecosystem for a long time. I don't know of any actually that have been in for a long time that are pulling out of GP, right? They're in there. That's where most of them built their business on and have a large customer base. So if you do know of something that's not working for you, an immediate improvement to your business can be just adding an ISV solution, instead of struggling with, whatever problem you're having. So by all means, talk to us. I'm sure we can put you in the right direction. Other options, GP in the cloud. Again, GP is not built as a true cloud platform. We'll get to that in a bit, but you can take GP and move it into the cloud. So options, you can move it into Azure. If you have a technical staff and you're big enough, they could be managing that in the Azure cloud. Difference being is it's not in premises. You don't have to worry about the security of someone getting through. You've got some added benefits of renting that space, right? You don't have to go out and buy new servers. You're basically contracting and buying that. So it's more predictable as well. And the other option is to go to a true hosting provider for GP. There's a number of them out there. And then you have less burden on your IT staff. So again, you're eliminating that IT staff for that burden. You're eliminating the need to have your own servers in-house and everything else that goes around that. And you're able to then, so what are the benefits? Benefits moving to the cloud, right? You can focus on growing your business. Eliminate the cost of buying new servers, hardware. Definitely going to lower your internal IT costs. Obviously, they might be offset. Some people, it's a no-brainer because it's significantly less than what all you're spending on your IT, especially if you're in the market for new servers and everything else. Might be a great time. If you just bought servers, you want to, again, evaluate appropriately. Your information will be secure in a data center. That's really the thing. You're going to give your employees easy, secure remote access anytime, anywhere. They have internet. There's still going to be some way to connect and get access to GP. Now, again, it's not going to run in a browser unless you use the web client, which you can do depending on your situation. Not right for everyone, but it does work. Or you're running the true GP desktop product, but you're able to do it remotely. And there are options there. Migrating to a new cloud platform. What are your options about a true cloud product? So GP to Dynamics BC is not an upgrade. As I said before, it's a full ERP migration, an implementation, learning a new system. So with that being said, talk about true clouds. So Acumatica and Business Central, we offer both. We do not offer NetSuite, but it's a very popular platform out there. And so you need to be aware of that. And then there are other cloud platforms out there. So advantages of a true cloud, again, SaaS, software as a service, right? What are you getting in that bundle? You're not just getting software, you're getting servers, everything associated to everything. That entire SaaS includes everything you need to be running that. So it's your disk storage, it's your servers, it's the horsepower, it's everything that you need to be able to run that. So it's all bundled together in one. Access anytime, anywhere, as long as you have an internet connection, right? They're all browser-based solutions which support multiple platforms, giving you the ability to run those from almost, run from Chromebooks and, laptops and Macs and tablets and Surfaces. And so you really get the full gamut of basically being able to run your ERP platform almost anywhere as long as you have that internet connection. Mobile apps are usually included. So Android and iOS, there's no additional charges like GP. Typically, you have to go to an ISV. It's going to be additional charges and costs to add those mobile app platforms. Connectivity, secure uptime. Again, you're secure. You don't have to worry about disaster recovery. All those burdens are taken off of you and your IT staff for the most part. So Most of them have responsive design, which means as you scale the screen, the size of the screen, the bigger the screen, it stretches. The smaller the screen, it shrinks down and adjusts accordingly. Anybody that knows GP knows that if I were to put it on a really big screen, it doesn't help me a whole lot, right? So you got to be, that just again helps you with the usability of the product. The web client does stretch, but it still is not, it's not true responsive design. Scalability, right? So if you're in a high growth pattern, right, you can easily scale up, right? You can get more horsepower, you can get more users, get everything up very quickly, right? And then depending on your needs, you might need to downsize as well. So you have a lot more flexibility in being able to react during peaks and valleys with your business. And again, minimal IT support and infrastructure. So Cal's story. We ran GP for over 20 years. We started looking at a true cloud platform to bring, with our intent was to adding another ERP solution to our offering, to accompany GP for the clients that truly needed that cloud platform versus what GP offered today. During that process, we evaluated over 10 different cloud ERP solutions. This was over a 3-year period. We were looking at them. We were looking at the company as a whole, who it is, the technology platform that they're using, the functionality that the solution offers. Does it meet the needs of most of the businesses that we work with day in and day out? Also, what are the ISV solutions that are out there for that platform? And we did speak to a lot of the ISVs because they have to work directly with that platform. So we can get their take on what it was like to develop for that platform. What was the ease or difficult level to develop for that platform? And then just working with the solution and the author of that solution to make sure that, is it something that was an easy process for them to get set up and going, right? So we're looking at the breadth of functionality, the new technology platform, and the type of company that we can work with. And that all led us to Acumatica. Again, the buzz and excitement around Acumatica reminded us very much of Great Plains, when Great Plains was in its heyday and we were adding clients. It was amazing at that time. And we have the same kind of buzz within the ecosystem around Acumatica today. Now, one big difference that we find is Acumatica is solely focused on making the best ERP software that it can. That's their single focus, which makes Acumatica different. Okay, talk about the other cloud platforms that are out there that I mentioned. Well, Business Central, well, it's Microsoft. I mean, they've got more initiatives than you can count on one hand, right? I mean, it's a lot of platforms. NetSuite, they are doing multiple. So their goal is not just to make the best ERP, it's also to make sure that it's tied to their platform, their Oracle platform. So again, they've got multiple. So they're not just focused solely on you and giving you the best software. And that's when Great Plains started. That was their soul. So again, we just felt like it was very in line with what we really enjoyed about working with Great Plains. And even when Microsoft bought it, it was still been a great ecosystem to be in. So Acumatica at its inception in 2008, keep in mind, 2008. So that's when, BlackBerry's technology was really, really going crazy at that time, right? And that's when they were developing this platform. Again, Business Central, the core platform itself is still about the same age as GP. Again, they put a new front end on it, and they are adding functionality, but the core platform, the underlying database structures and such are still similar to what GP is. Acumatica was so focused in addressing small business and building capabilities to drive innovations to help organizations scale and grow. Right? Acumatica pursued the channel model, working through partners, knowing that in order to really do a good job with an implementation, you need to have, we work with our clients, we got to understand it, we got to do the best job we can. And that's the model they chose versus other solutions out there. You can, the author might try and, say, okay, we got a canned solution, we're going to go ahead, you work with these guys that work for us, and they're going to put it in. Again, it's not usually we haven't heard a lot of success stories there. Again, Acumatica was born in the cloud. The time that they developed this product was a time when the cloud was really coming to be. So disrupting the market with the modern ERP, that was really their goal. So over our nearly 20 journey, at that time, we didn't start out with 5 systems in year 1, right? Year 2, year 3. But over time, Cal ended up with GP, Olympic Project Cost, Dynamic CRM, SalesPad Desktop, and Kayako, our support ticket system. So we had 5 different systems. Some of them communicated to each other, some of them didn't, at all different levels, right? So sometimes you had inconsistent data, sometimes you didn't, sometimes you had to do double entry, right? So as we worked with Acumatica, we decided, you know what, we're going to move our 5 systems into one system that can handle all our needs. Now, at the time when we did this, Business Central was still ramping up. So it was not a consideration for us at the time because it couldn't do all the things that we needed it to do, right? If we were to look at that today, we might have another decision, but at that point in time where Business Central was, it wasn't where Acumatica was, and we made that leap. And again, no more double entry. It's a one system, all integrated. So that single version of the truth is basically what we end up with. You don't look at one report and see one number and then go to CRM and see other report and different numbers, right? It's all the same. So we took this road. We truly didn't realize how transformative it would be for our company, but it really has taken us on that path. So again, Acumatica, the core platform, thing that makes them different, right? So their platform is built on technology stack, but they separate themselves from the technology stack. So you're not tied to that stack. Acumatica gives you options, the ability to have those options as far as whether or not you want to run Microsoft SQL Server. We recommend it, but they do support MySQL. So they basically put their ERP, XRP platform in the middle. The Acumatica Cloud product sits on top of the ERP platform. And then we have our connected applications and embedded solutions. So when we're talking about embedded solutions, those are add-ons to, but the whole point of it, it's a flexible platform. The idea behind it is the premise is low code, no code. That is their strategy, to be able to give us the ability to be able to improve our Acumatica instance without having our developers have to do the work, right? To make those changes without having to, be a big level of effort because it's designed to be improved. So embedded integrations, Acumatica's got a number of embedded integrations. What does that mean? It means it's built into the solution. You just have to make the connections and it will work with these other platforms. So things to know when moving to the cloud. So modules, functionality. Does that solution have everything you need? You cannot make that assumption that a particular solution, just because it's out there on the marketplace, has everything your company needs out of an ERP solution. Do you need add-ons? Do you need customizations? All factors that you need to be thinking ahead of time on. So it's a big process. Pricing. How does that platform determine the pricing? It's not simple at all. Quite complicated. There's additional costs that they may still have going forward during their contract when it renews that you need to be aware of, right? So not only when at the initial onset of the contract and what options or what they have built into that contract that might allow them to increase your price during the contract, but then when it goes to renew at the end of that contract, what happens? So a lot of fine print. Who owns your data once it's in the cloud? How can you get it back? What form does it come back in? Is it in a relational form? Is it in flat files, Excel, CSV? So you have to ask yourself, do I have access to all my data, right? What if this move to the cloud, this platform is not working for my business? I need to have the comfort knowing that I can move somewhere else, right? I can't be locked in. So it's important to know that. Acumatica does give you that ability to literally take a copy of your data. Another reason we chose them. I can take a copy of the data that's in the cloud for any of our clients and download it and then load it on a local version. And I've got the entire platform up and running. Something that, and it's at no additional cost. So it's built into the product. You need to know the reputation of the company who's providing the solution. Are they going to sell the lowest plan that they possibly have and raise the subscription significantly once you actually get onto the platform because, oh, well, you're exceeding the transaction numbers that we originally quoted you? It's out there. Acumatica has customer bill of rights. Well, it doesn't sound important. It is very important because they basically stand behind that and give you that comfort and security to know what you're going to be dealing with as a company. And then Microsoft, we know exactly what we're dealing with. We've been dealing with them for quite some time since they purchased Business Central, sorry, not Acumatica. Most of them, but not all of them, are user-based pricing. So as a starting point. So you need to understand named users versus concurrent user licensing. GP is concurrent, right? So if I have 30 GP licenses and I have 50 different users set up in GP, the first 30 that get in are the ones that have access to that system. So in my business model, if I've got multiple shifts, things of that nature, I can operate with less licenses than I have for the number of users for the system, right? So keep that in mind. When it comes to, let's say, Business Central, it is licensed named users, right? So even if a user only needs to be accessing that system 10 minutes a day, they are if they do transactions, they are a named user that now needs to be set up and you have to buy them a license. There are two different levels of licensing with Business Central. Essentials and Premium are really the users of the system. And the difference being Premium includes service management, so field service and manufacturing. So just that, so it's a pretty simplistic kind of the way GP was, where you had your starter pack and you had your extended pack once GP 2013 came about. So if you needed that manufacturing, then you had to go to the extended pack. So another model is transaction volume based. So Acumatica offers unlimited users with a commercial transaction volume. So it's like electricity, you pay for how much electricity you use, not how many people are in the house. So you need to know how they get to calculate that, right? So when they say that there's a component, whether it be Acumatica or NetSuite or somebody else, if there's a transactional component, right? How many transactions are allowed to do in addition to users? In some cases, they have both. Acumatica does not. Again, unlimited users, but they only base it on the highest volume of your commercial transactions. So that would be like my payables invoices or my receivables invoices or purchase orders or PO receipts or sales orders, one of those types of transactions. It's not the line number. So if I have 100 sales orders with 1,000 lines each, it's still 100 sales orders. That's the number if that was my highest number, that's what one they would use. Other solutions out there like NetSuite are going to add up all your transactions. And not only are they looking at transactions, they're looking at transaction line counts. So now if I've got 100 sales orders, 100 line items each, do the math. I mean, the numbers grow astronomically. And again, they're doing that not for one type of transaction, but they're looking across 82 different transaction types. So got to keep that in mind when you're talking about transaction volume based pricing. Again, if you're talking about going to the cloud, you need to know what you're getting into. It's complicated. Modules, right? So Acumatica, NetSuite, they all have module based pricing. So you don't pay for all modules that you don't need, right? You get the ones you need and therefore you're kind of able to lower your costs slightly because you're not having to have modules that you're never going to use. So most cloud ERPs have transaction volume limits over their base licensing and can have additional subscription costs as your transaction volumes grow. So NetSuite has both. They have service levels and tiers, along with modules, along with user counts, all combined to try and determine what your subscription cost is. And they really discuss the service levels and tiers, the number of transaction volumes during the sales cycle. Again, Acumatica, we have to have those conversations up front, so that way we know what your highest transaction volumes would be. It makes it very straightforward and complete, and then you just say, okay, and I know I have unlimited users, so if that user needs to be in there for 10 minutes, we're good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't cost you another seat because it's unlimited. So data storage is another factor, right? They include a base amount of storage. These cloud, again, they're bundling the whole solution together. So you've got server horsepower plus data storage plus the ERP itself, all being in that subscription. So keeping that in mind, if I'm taking a lot of pictures and storing a lot of pictures in my data, pictures take up a lot of space. So that's just an example, right? So keeping that in mind, do they allow you to use other external data sources besides the ERP database to be able to store those other files? So options for a lower cost file storage, because it can be big and you can change your amount of storage drastically, right? So something called Amazon S3 or Azure Blob Storage, those are viable options for Acumatica, where you're not storing any of that additional data in your ERP. So it's a nice thing to be able to say, okay, I can just use my ERP storage, which is much more expensive than this outside storage. Business Central includes 80 gigabytes of storage. For customers, you get 2 additional gigabytes for each Business Central Essentials user, 3 for premium user, and no extra charge. But as we talk about upgrades, you got to keep in mind, though, that that's 80 gigabytes plus whatever additionals that is shared for your production, and if you need a sandbox database for a test upgrade. So if your production is 40 gigabytes and now you're going to create a sandbox, well, now you're at your limit. So you need to keep that in mind. NetSuite included file transaction tiers, something they don't want to share with you in the sales cycle that you need to be aware of. But as you can see here, standard is what they typically will sell. They say 100 users or 100 gigabytes of storage, but it's only 200,000 transaction lines. Again, across 80 some odd different transaction types. That's for most it doesn't add up. The numbers just don't add up. And it's a $60,000 jump between standard and premium. So again, you just need to have this ammunition up front if you're ever talking NetSuite. And that's one of the reasons we don't represent them. It's just not practices that we feel we could ever represent. So other things to keep in mind, if you're in a environment where you have a lot of outside connectors, right? All these cloud platforms have the ability to have outside connectors, APIs, right? They're bringing in transactions. If I'm an e-commerce solution, right? I might only have a few users, but I've got a lot of orders flowing in, and I'm going over to my 3PL, and they're fulfilling the orders and they're shipping it, and then I'm invoicing the customers, and I don't need a big staff for that, but I've got a lot of outside transactions pushing through my ERP. So knowing what those limits are and how much they'll restrict you is important. When you're considering moving to the cloud, you also need to look at the ecosystem that particular solution offers, right? So again, a lot of parallelisms between the Acumatica ISV solutions out there and the GP ISVs. Acumatica does not allow every ISV to become part of their marketplace. They really, they certify them. They make sure that they're going to work with their solution. They're not letting everybody, just anybody that wants to be part of their ecosystem, to be a certified partner, be available on their marketplace. So they restrict that. Business Central has a marketplace on the app source. My understanding is that Microsoft is not nearly as stringent, so you have to be very careful if you're considering downloading these apps. It's not like putting an app on my phone. I'm now talking about potentially putting an unknown app onto my ERP system. So obviously in that case, you probably need a sandbox that's disconnected from your production environment, so that way you can test this. Now, I'll tell you that what you need to do is you need to be looking at how long that author of that ISV solution has been in the Business Central, and actually most likely previously in the vision space. So if they've been in the vision space for a long time, they're probably a very reputable ISV, and you'd have more comfort level, but you need to be able to navigate that space, and it's challenging. So upgrades, right? So everybody knows the challenges with GP upgrades. It's not different when you go to the cloud. So when you go into the cloud, you still are dealing with updates and upgrades, right? So keeping that in mind, Acumatica, Business Central, NetSuite all do 2 major releases per year. So what are your options for testing? You need to know them. How much time do you need to test? Know your notification timelines. How do you plan or schedule these, right? And what's your risk level, depending on your upgrades, your ISVs, customs that you have, all of that all come into play, because you are going to have to upgrade it. Just like GP and Microsoft making you have to do upgrades. You go to the cloud, everybody's they're now responsible for all of the security. They're going to continue to do updates, right? You're going to get features enhancements, but you're also going to have to do updates. So Acumatica has R1, R2s each year. And so they allow for that notification prior. They'll give you a free sandbox, and then you're able to do your testing. It doesn't go against your storage space, and you're able to then do your testing and then schedule your upgrade. They do have some flexibility that for more complex clients, they have something called the Acumatica Flex program, where you then have up to 18 months to be able to extend out your upgrade. So you're very much in line with how GP was, when we would have most of our GP clients skipping every other version before they would upgrade, because it just made sense for their business. Again, difference being Acumatica, you don't want to skip because there's so many new features that are being added all the time as well. So Business Central, major releases, two waves a year, but you have a much shorter time frame in which you can do your test upgrade and then have your production environment upgraded. So the most you can do is push out 60 days, and then if you don't schedule that before, they will just upgrade you. And then you get minor updates every second week of the month. So typically the minor updates shouldn't break anything, but again, it is something to be aware of. NetSuite also doing twice per year. You'll get notified, but you really have no time to test. So you have to be very careful. Again, if your environment is very simple and you don't have a lot of ISV solutions, you don't have a lot of customizations, then you have less risk for those automatic updates. The more your business is complicated and involved, the more risk you have. So you need to be aware of those risks. So how do you choose, right? I mean, it's a major undertaking when you're looking at potentially leaving GP and going to another solution, right? It's especially if you've been on it for a long time, right? I mean, you have a lot invested, right? So when you're looking at what is it, does it meet your needs? Does it have the functionality? An example, payroll. Acumatica has a built-in payroll. Business Central does not have a built-in payroll solution, but there are ISVs out there. So again, there are multiple ISVs. Now you have to, are those ISVs reputable? How long have they been in the space? How good is the platform? Again, a lot to consider. So again, ISVs, what's the cost? Are they certified by that ERP platform? That's very important, because again, there's a lot of little developers out there that are developing apps and saying, I can have it do this, but then we go and we actually sit down and we talk to them, and you start kicking the tires and you find out it's not going to do what they say it does. It's got bugs, it's got issues, and it's just not something that you can bet your farm on with your business, right? So Cal has chosen Acumatica and Business Central. I truly believe that those two solutions have a place for the right business, right? It's not, neither one is perfect for everyone. So you need to evaluate what that is and which one is the right one. And they both have different pricing models and different functionality, right? So, but they are both true cloud ERPs. Having the tools to extract data from your existing ERP, which is GP, we have all the tools we need, right? We know exactly and we know both Acumatica and Business Central. So the migration path is a lot less of a lift, because we're not an outside firm that doesn't know GP trying to get data out of GP and into a new platform. We know it, we've done it. So that being said, as your GP partner, we understand it's a big decision, right? The future of your business could be riding on making that right decision, choice of your company. So we're offering a free one-on-one consultation with you, where we want to take a deep dive into your specific GP deployment and what your system needs are, your business needs today, as well as what you expect for the future, right? This will allow us to help determine what the current plan is for you that would be right, whether it's staying with GP or moving to a new solution. Again, you don't have to make a decision today, tomorrow even, but it will eventually happen, right? It's just a matter of when, and when is it right for you to move, right? So that part of it you want to take away from this is not critical that you make that decision today. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and open this up for the question and answers. It looks like we have some questions.